Alex, welcome to the Scholarship GPS podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. Why don't you take a minute to introduce yourself?
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. And first off, thank you so much, Dave, for inviting me on this podcast and making this all happen. I'm so excited to spend the next 30, 40 minutes with you, really talking about the cool things I'm up to, my experience at Duke, and of course, how important college tours are for hopefully your listeners and how they can best take advantage of them within the very intense college process. But yeah, my name's Alex. I'm a 22-year-old and I just graduated from Duke back in May of 2025. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. But yeah, and I'm also like the founder of this really cool organization that I just created called Campus Maven. It's an organization that offers private, personalized tours to families to really help them understand what it's like being a college student on that specific college campus. Our mavens or tour guides are folks, who are students at that college campus and really know that college campus obviously really, really well, but they're also not affiliated with it. So it can give y'all really good, some honest perspectives about what it's like to be a college student. And also because, it's very private, personalized exactly towards what your interests are. We're able to take you into classes, clubs, dorms, whatever it may be. So you get a real good sense of what it's like to live as a college student in that university. And obviously, being a Duke student, I'm happy to talk about what it's like being Duke, that process that it was getting into Duke. But then also subsequently, how college tours helped me within that process and how to best, leverage college tours within the entire process itself.
Fantastic. Well, that's really what I wanted to talk to you about today is college tours. Why don't we kind of start at a high level? Like, what what do you think is the point of a student and their parent taking a college tour? Like, why
Yeah.
would they want to do that?
Yeah, so for me in my admissions process, but also what I hear with when I talk to a lot of families through Campus Maven, is really that college tours are best used in the process to really get to understand the school, what it's like,
Hmm.
what the vibe is, what the culture is, but also like get a really understanding of is that school right for you? And that plays at multiple levels of the admission stage with whichever one you're in, right? Whether it's at the very, very beginning, and you're just trying to narrow down your list, it really is helpful to know, like, hey, like, even though I saw online that this might be a really good fit for me, this actually might not be, right? So you don't have to go through all that process of applying to that specific school, writing all those supplemental essays, which, can take hours. Or if you're at the tail end of that process and you're choosing in between two different schools, it's really, really helpful to take a tour and gain an understanding of what it's like, what will my life be like at that university?
Yeah, yep. Um, well, what do you think is the best approach then to the college tour process? You mentioned, it could kind of happen at any point in the college admissions process, but what about some of the other kind of tips
Yeah,
around setting this up?
for sure. So for one, I would say like really reflect. First off, before you even, start the tour, reflect upon what your priorities are for your university experience, right?
Hmm.
Because that does a really good level setting and gets to deeper understanding of how you can then apply when planning and seeing what you want to see or take away from that college tour. So during that reflection process, think deeply of what do you envision, what do you aspire to the life that you want to live at that university, right? And
Hmm.
really dig in, think about it, and ask sub questions about that. It's like, okay, I want to be involved in robotics, for example. Well, what does that look like? At what level? And how does that level of involvement in that specific interest of yours compare to the other things that you want to do at that university, right? A lot of these universities, whether it be, small liberal arts colleges or these massive state schools, have a ton to offer and
Hmm.
will likely intersect with all of your interests, right? So that's that first point of really reflecting, digging deep into how you envision and aspire your college experience to be and what you want to take out of it, right? Then is the planning stage, which I really like to get into. And it doesn't, and that's, and it can involve either tons of research or if you, coordinate with someone like me, who offers, very personalized tours and can give you I love that insight and information. But really gain insights about, okay, well, now this is the life I want to live at college. How does this school play into that life? Are there certain labs that I know that the school will really allow me to like really grow and have this part of my life really served? Or are there certain clubs, whether it be extracurriculars with sports, whether it be student organizations, that can allow this part of my life to really flourish? What about the academics, of course? Like, are there certain programs, certain opportunities, whether it be studying abroad, whether it be participating in under a certain professorships, research, whatever it may be, right? Then doing that research, digging into those, like, those specifics is really helpful. And then plan a tour around that. Really
Mhm.
think about deeply about, okay, I know I've identified online that this lab is really interesting and I might want to participate in it. Or in this club is really cool. Then go there and try to engage with that lab. Try to engage with the club to really be like, oh, I know I will enjoy this. Or might take away like, oh, this is not exactly what I envisioned with the
Mhm.
brochure, right? Or envisioned with the research that I got online. So then obviously, having that tour, building that tour around those interests is really helpful. And then lastly, doing another set of reflection. That's something that I very much suggest to families doing is writing down and reflecting right after you had that tour.
Mhm.
What did you like most? What was really cool, really interesting? But also, what are some things that you didn't like so much, right? And once again, whatever point in the process you're in, that list is really helpful and really helpful information. And it's really important, just want to stress again, doing it right after you leave
Mhm.
that university because you get in the car, right? And like, 20, 30 minutes later, you might forget those specific details. And
Yeah.
those specific details are really important when it comes to, A, like, do I want to apply here ED or not? Or hey, what am I know I want to write my application supplemental about this program. Let me look back into and get really those great details that I wrote down and I really experienced and the feelings that I felt that I can then put into that supplemental essay, right? So like reflecting on both parts of that of the core approach, core process is really helpful. So just summing everything up because I know that was a
Mhm.
long-winded answer. First off, reflecting, identifying what you aspire, what you want to do with with your college experience, then B, planning and identifying things that fulfill those aspirations at that specific university. C, obviously executing the tour, and going and really getting a feel for what those things that you aspire to do, whether that will be truly fulfilled on that university, that's what you truly envisioned. And then, like, lastly, having that reflective process once again to really be and writing down those details that will help serve you, whether you're in that selection process, writing supplemental essays, or like trying to make a decision about whether you want to go to that school or not.
That's awesome. I love all the detail and thought you've put into it. It's obvious that your college tour experience
Yeah.
likely had a big influence on you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I first off, I was a COVID baby. I was applying to university when there was, the COVID pandemic at the tail end, luckily, of it. So college tours was a tad different than how obviously they're used to be operating or they have been, right?
Mhm.
But still tours played like a real influence because I was able to still do a couple before COVID hit and then even was able to do some like on the back end of my process too when it was a little bit more open. Um so that tour process really had a massive impact on me. And I'll tell this story about how I didn't end up or rather why I'm not wearing a Columbia blue shirt right now, right? So I was gun ho on Columbia. I was like, I really like New York City, my stats really well aligned, and I was gun ho on applying ED. And my mom was like, you know what, we have friends in New York that we can go and visit with. And then also check out Columbia. If you're like gun ho about it, you
Mhm.
really want to ED there, you should check it out. So I went, and I'll be honest, it was a great day. It wasn't the most beautiful day, and I think,
Mhm.
even small things like that really impact the tour. And did that process I was talking about, really doing that reflection about, hey, what do I want to see here? What do I want to seek out? And one component of that was just talking to students about how they interact with the extracurricular scene of since Columbia is very much like an urban campus, and I
Mhm.
was especially interested in intramural sports at that time. And talking to students there, learning about the intramural sports programs that they offered made me realize that maybe I should reconsider whether I should ED to Columbia. So that was really, really influential in obviously just being like, hey, let me reconsider and rethink. And it kind of led me to open up more options for my ED search. And then that leads me to Duke. And that started actually not with my own tour of Duke, but with my friend's tour that funny and ironically enough ended up at Duke's rival, Chapel Hill.
Mm,
Because he was checking out both Chapel Hill and Duke, and he was telling me how amazing the Duke tour was, how beautiful the campus was, and how like it was so involved with nature. And we obviously talked about the intramurals, extracurriculars, which I was like, which the answers he gave me, this was like right after I had that not so great Columbia tour.
hmm
And the answers he gave me really contrasted so interestingly with my experience with the Columbia tour that I really reflected and gave a second chance to Duke and eventually did a tour myself and was completely blown away. And the biggest moment that I really had was when, you're walking, there's this area that really leads to West Campus that I was on a bus on, and many students go between the East Campus and West Campus on, whether they're doing classes or they're coming or freshmen, they live on East Campus for their first year. So every morning you're going to West Campus, and the chat and the entrance right for the last little bit is through this narrow road where the chapel comes up, and there's beautiful greenery right around there. And coming up there my first time, I still remember it. It was gorgeous, and that really started to like hook me on how well integrated it was with nature. Talk to the students, the extracurriculars, the intramurals really aligned with the college life that I wanted to live. And then, of course, the academics, stellar academics, very much
hmm
aligned on that same level as Columbia. That I completely changed my ED. This was in September, mind you, where it
Okay.
was like, coming up on crunch time.
hmm
So that completely influenced my trajectory of my life. And I don't think I might not be here, honestly, Dave, having this amazing conversation with you if it was not for that tour.
Yeah, yeah. Well, obviously, the two different tours really, I mean, they changed the trajectory of
Yeah.
your college experience and your life. Um, yeah, obviously the tours are really very important.
Yeah.
Um, because you are more close to the college admissions process in terms of the time than I am. Do you want to share any
Right.
advice for students who are listening?
Yeah.
As they may be getting ready to start the college admissions
Yeah.
process.
So my biggest advice, I'll say two things. One on a fit thing and one on an application end, because I know I'm
Okay.
guessing a lot of your listeners are really concerned and anxious about the application end and really interested
Sure. Yeah.
in hearing at least my successful take.
Yeah.
Not to brag or anything.
Mm,
But yeah, I think the application process worked out pretty well. So, and I'm lucky enough that it did for me. Um, but yeah, first off on the fit process of like college is both a fit for you and a fit for the school, right?
hmm
So that's one reason why I was really like kind of analyzing that with my own experience with Duke of like, hey, and obviously like Columbia, like, hey, like Columbia is not the best fit for me for what I aspire to do in college, what I aspire to do with my life. While Duke really was. And campus tours, as you know, as I just mentioned, have a lot to do with that.
hmm
So having that nuance and understanding and honestly like maturity of, hey, not every college is a good fit for me,
Yeah.
is really important from a mindset perspective of like when approaching these applications too, right? Because a nice thing that these admissions departments do is that they also make sure like and do a check when through those essays to make sure that you're gonna feel like you belong, that this
hmm
college is the right fit for you. That's why, you see these videos online of stellar kids getting, deferred or waitlisted from schools like UT, schools like Vandy, but then getting into a couple Ivies. Well, that's because UT and Vandy didn't think they might not be the best fit for their
Hmm.
schools, but the Ivies they thought that that student was a great fit for them, right? So coming with that like perspective is really, really helpful. That it's both like going to be a fit question of like, hey, I do I think I'll have an amazing experience? Does this college fit for me and my aspirations? But also like that the admissions department does a nice check on that. So it's also like sometimes, not your doing. And that
Yeah,
kind of moves us
yeah.
well, into the application process of like, like, having an understanding of what you want your college life to be and frame your application around who you are and how you'll fit into that and into the school then too, right? Something that I did with my application process is I knew that Duke really does prioritize leadership, prioritize being a jack of all trades, and that's how I framed a lot of my supplementals, a lot of my um how do you say, like, even different elements of my like personal statement,
Hmm.
my activities is really showing folks and those admissions readers that I'm that jack of all trades and I really align with what Duke and the schools that I was looking at that were very similar to Duke align with and desire for in the students that they look for, right? These colleges are not all looking for the same exact student.
Right,
Obviously, you need those
right.
test scores. You need that GPA. And I was blessed enough to have an education that I got it. But also, when it comes to those like qualitative things, having that understanding is so important, but also showcasing that understanding in the application,
Hmm.
and kind of giving that admissions reader, an understanding that, I can see how this student is the type of student that we're looking for, and
Hmm.
framing your application into that ways and kind of like, using those different supplemental essays to really show the nuances in how your different elements of that fit, right? I wrote one of my application essays for Duke about community engagement, about how I engaged folks back in Miami. And then another one about being at a family dinner and hearing tons of different opinions on crazy things
Hmm.
in different languages. And how I still, brought people together there too, right? Both of them were themed on like bring people together, whether it be bringing the community together, bring my family together. Therefore, like framing my application one certain way that very much aligned with what Duke was looking for.
Hmm.
But at the same exact time, kind of got at that from different angles and different stories and different vignettes.
There are a couple things really stuck
Yeah.
out to me. One was I love the message that it's not personal when a student
Oh
gets
no.
rejected from a college that um, the each college is looking for something different, and each college individual or a particular college might be looking for something different from year to year as well. So a
Oh,
student who might
totally.
get into to Harvard this year might not next year,
Yeah.
and there's institutional priorities. It can even come down to something seemingly trivial like we know that we need a tuba player in the band, and this kid plays tuba. He's our top ranked tuba player applied. So even though maybe he's not a great fit otherwise, he's getting in. So
Yeah.
I think that's good for students and parents to hear. And then
And
the
that's why those differences exist. You see
yeah,
students like get rejected from like I said, Vandy, UT, and get into Harvard. Like it's
yep,
like it doesn't make sense, but like it's 100% a fit thing. And that's a nice thing that they do that check for you,
yeah,
such
yep,
that you're not gonna like completely get into this environment that's not good for you.
yep, yep. The other thing that really stuck out to me was having a really deep understanding of what the school values.
Mhm.
Some of the students I work with, they tell me they want to go to XYZ school, and then when I ask them why, they don't really have a good answer. Some of them will say, "Well, I want to be somewhere warm, or I want to be close to the beach," and it's like, well, you know,
There's tons
that's
of schools like that.
yeah, yeah. I mean that tells me maybe what region you want to be in, but that's not really what the school is looking for. So having that deep understanding of what the school is all about, that's
Yeah.
really critical.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing both regular admissions tour or any tour can really help you with, right? You get on that campus, you get a really solid understanding
Mhm.
of the types of students there, the vibes, the feel of them, especially once you start talking to them, interacting with them, right?
Yep.
And from that, you can really get a solid understanding of, oh, this school's like maybe a little bit more quirky, maybe, a little bit more alternative, or hey, the school is looking for this other type of student, right? More sporty, more sports players vibe. Like if you like Duke and Davidson are good examples. Davidson's a bit of a smaller school, but about 2 hours away, still in North Carolina, and Duke, as is Duke, right? But the student population at Duke and Davidson are vastly different. Even though, to be honest, like this, the stats you have to get in from an ACT, SAT level, GPA level are pretty much the same. So you
Hmm.
would have students that like apply to both and get only into one, and it's not a stats thing. It's genuinely like Davidson being like you're more of a Duke student, or Duke being like you're more of a Davidson student.
Yeah. Yep. Well, let's shift and talk about Campus Maven. Tell us first of all what is Campus Maven?
Yeah. So Campus Maven is a service that I created in my post Duke career after really reflecting both with my like friends about the impact that college tours had with our own experience and our application experience, and then also having my younger sister actually go through the process herself.
Mm,
So what Campus Maven does is basically is a very private, personalized service that builds and offers families private tours of different campuses personalized for you. And we're really just working with you and your family for that specific tour. And we're trying to really allow that family to walk away with a solid understanding of what their life is going to be like at that school. And because it's private and very personalized, we build every tour differently. And we
mm.
build every tour exactly towards what your interests are, both academically, extracurricularly, and extracurricular wise. And because it's just us and your family, we're able to take you into really cool spaces on universities that allow you to get that really great understanding of what it's like to be a student. So we're able to take you into different classes at that university that they offer. We're able to take you into different clubs, different dance practices, different sports practices, whatever it might be your specific interest. We're also allowed to take you into the dorms, and we actually have one option that allows you to eat at the dining hall
Mm.
itself. So you get
Okay.
to experience, this campus through all senses, so that hopefully by the end of your tour, whether it be a 2 hour tour or longer offerings, you're really taking away and having a solid understanding of A, is that school a fit for you? And B, if that school is a fit for you, what is your life going to be like at that university?
It sounds to me, obviously, Campus Maven is very customized, but it sounds to
Yeah,
me that compared to, say, the tours that the colleges themselves offer, which are very standardized, it's
yeah,
every student's going to get the same exact tour every single time, and so they're very tailored into what they show you and what they don't show you, right?
yeah.
Yep.
And
And
also like they try to portray their university in a certain way, which is
mhm,
completely understandable, right?
sure.
These universities, they want to maintain their prestige. And one way that they do so is trying to maximize the amount of applications that they get such that their admissions like their acceptance rates go down, right? Like
Hmm.
you only have a certain amount of slots. The only way you get the acceptance rate to go down while maintaining the same amount of revenue and offering the same amount of beds is by increasing those applications, right? So
Yep.
you want to make your university as attractive as possible
Hmm.
in order to maximize the amount of applicants that you do get, right? So I completely understand it. And like a good example of this is like two quick cool examples is one, I was talking to a family who when they went on one of their tours without us, it was one of those standard admissions tours. They asked like the tour guide like a question. It was not a crazy question. It was something about like the dining hall or something, right?
Hmm.
And the tour guide was like, well, do you want the tour guide answer or do you want the real answer? And the family was like, I want the real answer,
Yeah.
duh. But like that's very emblematic of how sometimes restricted these tour guides feel in
Hmm.
like offering families what's happening, like the full perspective of what's happening at that university. Another interesting part of that is at Duke, I have friends who are tour guides, and they say how sometimes the admissions department doesn't want them to talk about certain aspects of Duke, such
Hmm.
as Greek life. But I'm like, well, the problem is with that is that like 30% of Duke students are in Greek life organizations, and at least 80% of the student body, if not more, interact with Greek life, whether it be by going to their different fundraisers, different events, whatever it may be, right?
Hmm.
So we're So one cool thing about Campus Maven is that we're not affiliated with the admissions department, but so we are really able to offer you that full perspective of what it's like being a college student at that university, including the not so great things about the university, not
Hmm.
to scare you, but to really allow you to get a full breadth and full understanding of what it's like to be a college student at that university.
Yeah, yep. Now, the Campus Maven tour guides, are they current students or could they be former recently
So they're
graduated students?
Yeah, so they're all current students, and
Okay.
that really helps with the different aspects of what we're trying to do, right? Like, we're trying to bring our families into classrooms. That really helps if a current student is asking it, right? Because they already have the connections with the professors,
Yep.
already know the professors, or like clubs, same exact thing, or going into dorms, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, they're current students, but also to allow you guys to like really get your families, to really get a solid perspective of what it's like, to date on that campus, which only, current students can give.
Yeah, yep. How do parents and students find out more about Campus Maven?
Yeah. So, honestly, by going to our website, it is campus-maven.com.
Mhm.
And from there, there's tons of information about what Campus Maven is, what we're providing to families, the different services we offer, but also the Mavens that we have on there. So you can learn a little bit more about who you might be spending 4+ hours of
Mhm.
your life with. And if any families want to talk with me personally more about Campus Maven or want to talk with any of our current Mavens or tour guides, about it, there's an option on the website to set up like a free complimentary 15-minute consultation to see like, hey, where are you at in the application process, and does it make sense to have a Campus Maven tour right now for you and your family.
That's awesome. Well, we will, of course, put the link to the website in the show notes. Alex, this has been great. Learned a lot about, of course, Campus Maven, but also the importance of college tours, and really hope that people will reach out to you because I think it's a very valuable service.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much, Dave. Really appreciate the time. I know you're super busy with everything you got going on, especially during this season. But yeah, thanks so much for this conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Great. Thanks, Alex.